What's up, YouTube? It's the one and only legend of winning, aka Low, and I'm back with another episode of the NBA preview. Now, for those out there who missed the last episode, as always, there will be an annotation in the top right hand corner, links in the description, and if you watch the video all the way through, at the end of the video, there will be two annotations for the last episode and a playlist for all of the episodes of the NBA preview. But in today's video, we're going to talk about the Indiana Pacers and really just pray for this team, man. Just pray for the Pacers, man, because it's going to be a very long time before they get back to where they need to be. This is an organization, small market team that had a lot of success over the last several seasons. The quote-unquote Paul George era was pretty impressive in my opinion. You can make a very legitimate argument that they were really the only team in the Eastern Conference over the past 7 years that had any chance of beating LeBron. But unfortunately for the franchise and the fan base, you have injuries such as Paul George, also Danny Granger was suffering from injuries, and then slowly but surely you have a whole bunch of turnover with the organization, from the players to the head coaches, and now even the general manager, which actually leads us to our summer of social media for the clip of the day.
You know, I've been here for a number of years. Kevin's been here for 5-6 years. You know, he's been in a position like this before, so I think everything just come together. It's just time to go, and I've really enjoyed it here. I love Indianapolis, love living here. It's a great city. I think we got the right guy to take over, and it's just, to me, it's just the right time.
Now, like I said in the intro, you had a lot of people moving in and out of the organization. In this last summer, Larry Bird finally decided to resign, hang up his hat, and he had a pretty good run. However, the last couple of years was really suspect. But the one biggest thing that really concerned me when it comes to the organization is why would they let go of Frank Vogel? In my opinion, Frank Vogel was one of the best coaches in the NBA, and he decided to depart from him, brought in Nick McMillan, which is an okay coach, but I feel like when it comes to the Indiana Pacers and the identity that they had, especially on the defensive end, to me, that started with Frank Vogel and it trickled down to other players such as David West, Roy Hibbert, and obviously Paul George. And in my opinion, I actually believe that was the final straw for Paul George and why he was so vocal on constantly trying to get out of there and just looking for a new path in his career, because they were moving in a different direction and he just didn't like it. And I think Frank Vogel getting rid of such a great coach like that is a huge head scratcher. But moving forward, now this is an organization that no longer has Paul George and they're moving in a different direction, and hopefully everything pans out for them. But with that being said, let's go ahead and look at these contracts and these depth charts so we can figure out what exactly is going to happen in the next upcoming seasons. When it comes to new signings, they bought on both Darren Collins and Bojan Bogdanovic for a 2-year $20 million or 2-year $21 million deals, which is okay. I do like it. However, I don't necessarily know why they're signing competent players to the roster, especially if you're expecting for them to tank this next upcoming season. So that's fairly concerning. Then when it comes to overpaid players, honestly, I would not necessarily label Oladipo overpaid, but I understand why people will come to that conclusion, especially because last season it didn't really seem like he developed too much. So Oladipo making $21 million next season, to some people I can understand why it's going to be a bit of a stretch to justify that type of contract. Then when it comes to expiring contracts, Lance Stephenson is on a team option, so that's going to be extremely interesting to figure out what the Pacers are going to do. But then when it comes to Corey Joe and Thad Young, they are on player options. More than likely, they're going to opt out of the contracts because I think both of those players are worth way more than what they're getting paid. So that's going to be also interesting as well. Now, with that being said, let's look at this depth chart. At the point guard position, we have DC. Then at the 2, Oladipo, aka King. Shout out to you, King. At the 3, we got Bogdanovic. At the 4, we have Thad Young. And at the 5, we have Myles Turner. Very interesting lineup. I actually like the dynamic between Myles Turner and Thad Young, or at least the potential that's there. So I do like that. And I do like the spacing that Bogdanovic will provide. A couple of solid players coming off the bench that will be extremely interesting. Lance Stephenson, Corey Joe, and Al Jefferson should be wrapping up their 9-man rotation. And then when it comes to their 10th man, either Sabonis or TJ Leaf. Now, when it comes to TJ Leaf, young guy coming out of UCLA, quite honestly, I don't necessarily know how great of a player he is because I mean, let's just be honest. Lonzo made a lot of those players in UCLA last year look way better than what they really are. So it will be interesting to see how he's going to be able to provide evidence to show everyone else that he does deserve at least a 6-man role, and then he'll be able to creep into the starting lineup if he does show a lot more productivity. And the same thing can be said about Sabonis. In my opinion, I believe Oladipo and Sabonis, they were misutilized with their time in OKC. I honestly believe that Sabonis, if he actually played the same way he played in college, or at least closer to the rim, he would have been much more productive. However, in OKC, they wanted to space the floor out, so Sabonis, he actually was a starting power forward, but he was on the perimeter way too much, and I just didn't understand that whatsoever. Hopefully, things can turn around now. He's in Indiana. He can be much more productive, and we see a little bit more out of him. And actually, speaking of Oladipo and him being misutilized, because this is something that's been going on his entire career, he's actually our spotlight player of the day. Now, for people out there who don't know, and I'm going to try my hardest not to be biased, but Oladipo is actually one of my personal favorite players in the NBA right now. And over the course of his entire career, it feels like he's never been given a fair opportunity whatsoever. He's been in the NBA for 4 seasons. In my opinion, he's been getting better every single year. A combo guard that's best utilized at the shooting guard position because he's able to give you around 18 to 20 points on a night-to-night basis. However, he's still able to facilitate 5 assists, so I do like that as well. And athletically, he's pretty impressive. He was in a dunk contest, and he has multiple highlights of him just dunking all over a whole bunch of players. However, don't get it twisted, he's still able to knock down the 3-ball, and he's able to create his own shot regardless if it's at the mid or finishing around the rim with a tough layup. The reason why I believe that Oladipo is misutilized is because I've been watching him for quite a while, and the track record shows that when he's at the 2 guard and he's a starting player, he puts up the numbers that he's supposed to put up. However, when he was in Orlando and then his last year in OKC, he's been all over the place. His first year in the NBA, Orlando decided to completely misutilize him and put him at the point guard position. He still was fairly productive, around 13 to 14 points. His field goal percentage was roughly around 42%. However, he's not a point guard. He's a shooting guard who can handle the ball a little bit, but just to throw him at the point guard position, especially in today's NBA, is ridiculous. His second year in the NBA, his numbers went up immediately because he was playing the shooting guard position. Then in his third year, they decided to bring in Evan Fournier with the Orlando Magic, and they moved him to the bench for the first 20 games of that season, which drastically dropped his numbers. But when they finally came to the senses and put him in the starting lineup at the 2 guard position, his numbers went up again. In the last 40 games of the 2015-2016 season, he averaged nearly 19 points. Field goal percentage went up around 47 to 48%, shot 40% from behind the arc, 2 steals, and again, the assists and rebounds were roughly around 4 to 6 per game. So Oladipo provided evidence in Orlando when he was put at the right position and given the minutes, he was able to do what needed to be done. And then in OKC, I thought it was going to work out, especially because I thought that Kevin Durant was going to stay. But once Kevin Durant left, he decided to put Oladipo in the starting lineup. And the backcourt with Oladipo and Russell Westbrook, in my opinion, it just didn't work out. It was obvious that Russell Westbrook was going out there trying to get those triple doubles, and we all know that's what was going on. And because of this, unfortunately, Oladipo turned out to be just a spot-up shooter in most of the offensive schemes, which again is just vastly misutilizing Oladipo because he is dynamic enough to create his own shot and create for others. But now he's on a team where the offense more than likely should be ran through him. And I feel as if when he gets the opportunity, Oladipo will definitely prove to everyone in the NBA that he is a 20-plus point scorer. In my opinion, I think in his prime, he could actually crank it up around 24, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets to 25 because, again, he's been improving his entire career. And I feel as if the 4 to 5 assists and the 4 or 5 rebounds he gets on a night-to-night basis is something that will be a consistent theme as well. And also, he's been averaging over a steal and a half practically his entire career, so that should stay up as well. But with all that being said, that now leads us to our Twitter question of the day. Shout out to my man JRK5455. I don't know why I said all of that, but shout out to you, man. And you asked, how well will the Oladipo and Turner pairing develop? Now, I just got done talking about Oladipo, so I'm not going to talk about him too much, but again, you already know how I feel about him. And when it comes to Myles Turner, I'm kind of split. Some people, like Call Me Agent Zero, believes that Myles Turner will be a very, very impressive player in his next upcoming season. So much so that Call Me Agent Zero has compared Myles Turner to Porzingis in multiple Skype calls that we've had in private. Don't tell him I said this, but he said that Myles Turner is just as good as Porzingis. Crazy, right? I know it's crazy. On the other hand, though, I do see the potential in Myles Turner. He's a power forward / center who can run fairly fluently. I hope that he's able to add a little bit more weight to his frame. I'm hoping that's just because he's young, but obviously the one thing that separates Myles Turner from a lot of other big men in the NBA is the fact that he has a shooting touch. Now, his shooting touch isn't that consistent at all, and it's fairly concerning because when you're on a team with Paul George and you're not able to knock down your three-point shots, I don't necessarily know how that's going to work out now that a player at Paul George level is no longer on the team and demanding double teams like he used to. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that he's young, but I'm just not as sold on Myles Turner as a lot of other people are. In my opinion, still to this day, he's not a second option. He's more so around the third or fourth option, or at least that's where I see him as. I can see him putting up roughly around maybe 17 points. I'm not ready to jump to the 20-point mark, but 17 points. The rebounding, I like the fact that he's really active on the offensive board, especially for the limited minutes that he receives, roughly around 31 minutes and grabbing 2 offensive rebounds on a night-to-night basis. So I like that. But on the defensive boards, he's just not that active, and I want to see a little bit more out of him with that so I can say that he will be a double-double guy. But to be completely honest with people, it's going to be hard for me to shake my skepticism of Myles Turner because he was originally maybe a third, fourth option, and now he's definitely going to be either the first or second option on a night-to-night basis. And the Indiana Pacers need him to be that, especially because he's really the only player on this team who's still young but still has a lot of potential to his game. So I would love to see a little bit more consistency from shooting behind the arc and a lot more consistency from grabbing rebounds. But if he can max out his potential, I think the dynamic between him and Oladipo could be something interesting. I don't necessarily believe it's going to be game-breaking or anything like that, but I definitely believe it'll be enough to kind of stay afloat in the weak Eastern Conference and make them a little bit competitive in the playoff race. So I do like that. But with all that being said, I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing, which is something I really want to touch upon. I don't know why Indiana signed so many veterans to the team. I'm confused. Why are they not just tanking? I understand Oladipo was part of the Paul George trade, and I get that. But to turn around and sign DC and Bogdanovic and then trade for Corey Joe, I'm just confused. I don't understand what thought process that is, and that's probably the biggest concern. But with all that being said, people, please let me know what you think about the Indiana Pacers in the comment section below. Also, hit the subscribe button, the notification bell, and as always, make sure you comment in the comment section below on who you believe is the next team up. If you watched my last video, you know why you're supposed to be doing that. But with all that being said, people, I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.